Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Janetta, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube later and live, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thanks so much, Johnetta, and welcome everyone who is here live in the Zoom room, and those of you watching on YouTube, and those who will be watching later. Whenever you're watching, your energy, your presence matters, and we appreciate being able to connect with you. Our broadcast date today is Sunday, December the 3rd, and it's the first Sunday of Advent. Now, not everybody knows what Advent is. In fact, when I started talking about Advent, I had some folks say, "What is Advent?" So if you didn't grow up with Advent, don't know what that is, let's just talk about it. As you all know, a lot of times I like to start with the dictionary anyway, to just look things up. And the word Advent just means the arrival of a notable person, thing, or event. So a notable beginning or arrival. So it's a word we can use in lots of different ways. And in our popular culture, it's essentially a countdown to Christmas. So one of the things that I always enjoy are lots of the different kinds of Advent calendars that kind of do a countdown to Christmas, where you get like a little goodie every day. And I got a gift of one of those yesterday that I'm super excited about. Is my very best friend gave me an Advent calendar that has tiny little jars of jam for each day. And with my breakfast, I like to have some eggs and some toast with jam. And I'm really enjoying that. So Advent. And then on the religious level, Advent is a season that's observed in most Christian denominations as a time of expectant waiting and preparation for the birth of Christ. Now, in Unity, we teach that the Christ is not a person or a particular person like Jesus, but the Christ is a divine idea that expresses at the point of each and every one of us. So the season of Advent for us in Unity helps to remind us that even when we forget, our awareness of the Christ consciousness can be rekindled, revived, reactivated, and that this Christ consciousness is fully present all the time. And what we're working on, of course, is awakening our own awareness of that. And sometimes we lose sight of it, right? We forget. We forget our own divine nature when we get all mucked up and things happening in our outer lives. So it's a wonderful season in Unity to remind us of that. Now, churches and many faith traditions will follow themes for Advent. So a different theme each week, and Unity of Fredericksburg will be following themes. For the first Sunday of Advent, some churches use the theme of hope, some use the theme of faith. Very often, Unity is in a place of yes and, both and. So we'll be talking about hope and faith today. And let's start out with hope. And I need to make a confession when I talk about hope is that being a child who grew up in the 1970s, a lot of times when themes come up, what comes to mind for me are things from popular culture. So when I think of the theme of hope, the first thing that comes up for me is a very well-known film that was released in 1977 called A New Hope. So it's also known by lots of different other names. So you might already know what I'm referring to. But for you and for those who don't, I'm going to clue you in by reading an excerpt from a review that came out in 1977 reviewing the movie. And it's not a very appreciative review. So it's kind of funny. It's from the New York Daily News. So here's what this review has to say. This film is somewhat grounded by a malfunctioning script and hopelessly infantile dialogue. Surrounded by fascinating creatures, the actors barely hold their own. To be sure, Mark Hamill has a bland-faced innocence as Skywalker, and Carrie Fisher is comically plucky as the distressed Princess Leia. But Harrison Ford hams it up terribly as Han Solo, a cynical space pilot who has flown from one side of this galaxy to another and seen a lot of stuff. So I don't know if that makes you laugh as much as it makes me laugh, but anyway, clearly that reviewer of the very first released Star Wars movie called A New Hope kind of didn't get the point of what has been an enduring influence on our modern culture. It is essentially the spinning of modern myths, kind of like this is our generation of the kind of myths that they wrote in Greece so many centuries ago, that so many stories are based upon. So the story that is told in that film involves the enthralling epic tale of the hero's journey, inspiring characters that we love to see embracing their destiny, and the troubled characters we love to hate, mentors and gurus speaking the wisdom of the ages, and the compelling metaphysical truth that is shared throughout the film, and it's known as the Force. And of course, that film has an enduring message of hope. So it takes place in a universe where everything feels as if all good things are coming to an end and what can be done to overcome. So have you ever had that kind of moment in your life where you felt like all the good stuff, you can't see it, you can't find it, you don't know how to make it come about? So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about hope. Now, hope is an interesting word because it has lots of layers of meaning, and different people have a variety of different reactions to it. Now, for some, hope is that perpetual flame burning in the heart, as in the Star Wars movie. It's like we can always come back, we can win, we can find a way through, a promise of things that will be better in the future. And I looked hope up on Wikipedia. When I mention that, I always mention that Wikimedia is a not-for-profit. So if you're looking up stuff there, you ought to support them. And I certainly do. So here's what Wikipedia had to say about hope. Hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes. So I feel that I kind of resonate with that. And yet I was in a conversation just the other day. It was a team of ministers. We were kind of brainstorming the name of a conference that we're going to be doing in 2025. And one of the words that was being tossed around was hope. And one of the ministers was like, no, let's not use, that's a weak word. We don't want to use that. And I was surprised I was surprised, but this is common with a lot of people that when they hear the word hope, what it indicates to them is lack. It kind of affirms that things are bad and I'm hoping for something better. So kind of a beseeching sort of energy. It's very interesting. Um, but I would like to say with regards to hope, so when we are experiencing the very worst of times for us, however it is that that's showing up, we can, realize that last layer of what you have to cling to, there is hope. That's kind of like what we really kind of hang our, I don't have any more energy for this. I don't know how I'm going to go on. It's kind of like hope is that last thing that we cling to. And if it's the last thing we're clinging to, it's got to be pretty strong, don't you think? To me, it doesn't feel weak. So when we look out at the state of our world today, some of us can arrive in a state of hopelessness, right? Um, and sometimes we can dwell there for some time. Now, I bring this up because this time of year, this time between Thanksgiving and New Year's can be really challenging for a lot of people. And I think it's important for us to recognize that and acknowledge it and see what we can offer in the way of support for those who might be feeling depression or experiencing grief. There's no time limit on grief. So you can be, feeling like you've got a good handle on it. And then the holiday season arrives, and all of a sudden you have memories and echoes of years gone by, and it can be really hard. Also, some of us, when we dwell in that space kind of too long, this space of hopelessness, we kind of can get to a point of relying on it. Let me just read you this text that I found actually in a meme online, and it was something I was sharing with my son, who has a tendency to dwell in hopelessness. So it's from, the source is somebody that goes by the handle crypto naturalist. Who knows who that is? So here it is. We seldom admit the seductive comfort of hopelessness. It saves us from ambiguity. It has an answer for every question. There's just no point. Hope, on the other hand, is messy. If it might work out, then we have things to do. We must weather the possibility of happiness. Isn't that a fascinating quote? And it really sheds a light on, again, I guess I'm kind of trying to convince this person I was in conversation with a couple of days, even though they're not present, that there is an infinite strength in hope. If hope is that last ledge that you're holding on to, this is a really strong thing. And being in that space is around bravery, like this quote that I just read. If we're able to, even to be in that space of hope, things could get messy. We've got to do what needs to be done. And hope puts us in that space where we need to be brave. So even when we feel too tired to go on, hope shows up. I mean, think about it. Again, think about, the worst day you've ever had, the worst thing you've ever been through. You got through it, right? You got through it. You got through to the other side. And that kind of eternal flame of hope is just always there. Even when we feel like we can't do it, we're too tired, there's no resources for us to use, somehow it's there. And it lights our way. It lights our way forward. So if you're feeling that kind of downward pull of grief or depression in this season where the days are short and the nights are long and there are so many echoes and memories, just take a moment to just focus on that hope that is present. It's there. It must be, or you wouldn't have made it through to today, right? So just take a breath with that right now. Just recognize that flame of hope, no matter what your circumstances are, just feel it there. Ask yourself, are you feeling hopeful? Feel that glimmer of hope in your heart. Like you might not be able to wrap your hand around it, know, in a firm, concrete way what it is, but you can see it. It's there. You can feel it. It helps us to wake up. And hope is actually an aspect of our spiritual power of faith. I have heard hope spoken about sometimes as the parent of faith. Um, So I think of it as the aspect of faith that we use to help us manage our human lives. And that's why there's so many different flavors of it and so many different opinions about it, because it reflects the changing nature of our outer human lives. It's changing all the time. But what we want to do is be able to move through that space of hope and move on to faith. Now, sometimes that can seem like a lot, that moving into faith. So, hope is like, okay, we can get that. We can work with that. Maybe some days it feels small. Maybe some days it feels big. Faith might feel like a big step. And I would encourage us to try to take that step and lean into and allow hope to kind of show us the way to step into faith. So let's talk about faith for a little bit. Now, faith is also a word that we use in a number of different ways. So looking that up, I see faith defined as a form of trust or confidence. I have faith in you. Or a belief system, like a doctrine or a religion, my faith. Um, Sometimes we talk about faith as something we can find or lose or something like that. Now, in unity, faith is one of the 12 powers, and the 12 powers is kind of a set of tools that we can use that shows us particular ideas in divine mind. So I do have a book here where I can read a little description. Now, this book is, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it last week, and I'll probably be referencing it throughout Advent, is Divine Audacity by Linda Martella Whitsett. She will be with us as a guest speaker at the end of the year on December 31st. So this quote is actually a quote that she has in her book. So it's not her voice at this point. This is from a woman whose name is Florence Hausman, and her book was called Your God-Given Potential. So here is here it is, Winifred Wilkinson Hausman. My apologize. All right, here's what she has to say. Faith is that quality in us which enables us to look past appearances of lack, limitation, or difficulty, to take hold of the divine idea and believe in it, even though we don't see any evidence of it except in our mind. Through faith, we know with an inner knowing the truth that has not yet expressed in our manifest world. So we talk in unity about faith being an inherent ability we have to tap into the energy of the universe. So whether you want to call that God or all that is or divine love, whatever your vocabulary is, faith is this capacity we have to shift our attention beyond the circumstances of our human lives. And these unity teachings are reminding us that the experience that we are having, whatever we're having in our life, is a product of our own consciousness, our own thoughts and feelings, beliefs and attitudes. And what we have with faith is the ability to make that shift. So we're using this divine idea of faith according to the level of our consciousness. So we might be using it just a little bit. So it would show up kind of as that glimmer of hope that kind of shows up and keeps you waking up the next morning. Or we can use that power of faith with great intention, and we can show up in our circumstances from a state of absolute conviction, knowing the things that we talk about every week, knowing the one presence and one power is present no matter what it is we're seeing, whether we, it doesn't matter that we can't see it with our human eyes or touch it with our hands. We know it's there. So there's that range of how we use the power of faith. And in this season of Advent, we kind of are working on practicing that and acknowledging that and expanding our awareness and asking ourselves, how am I using my power of faith? Are you in that tiny, tiny little bit of hope, or are you able to know the good even when you can't see the good? So you need to ask yourself, what are you putting your faith in? How are you using it? Because sometimes we can use it in ways that are really not productive. All right. So are you putting your faith in things, in beliefs such as it's never going to work? There's not enough money. There's not enough time. I'm too old. I'm not smart. Or is that what you're anchoring your faith on? Or are you remembering the things that we talk about on Sunday? Are you remembering the one presence and the one power, active, omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence that is present at the point of each and every one of us and expressing in every circumstance? So when you lean into that power of faith and use it from your divine nature rather than your human nature, then we are able to find our way through our outer circumstances using that as our point of reference, all that is, the universe, divine love. So rather than seeing lack in our life, there's not enough of this, not enough of that, we perceive the limitless abundance of divine mind. It has no limits of the ideas that we can tap into and the places we can go in our consciousness. Rather than seeing the limits of the material world, we perceive the timeless, expansive potential of all that is. Now, another power that is at play this time of year that I want to highlight, we've got all kinds of divine powers happening all the time, but we're talking about faith today. And I also want to mention our power of strength, because we have this capacity with faith to know that there's good. But again, sometimes we get shaken by events in our outer lives, and our power of strength allows us to hold steady, so that no matter what's going on, we can hold steady to those fundamental beliefs in abundance and wholeness and goodness, no matter what the circumstances are. And when we practice this, when we practice holding steady on a spiritual level, what we do is allow space for those things to start to materialize in our physical human lives. And a great way for us to remind ourselves of all of those things this time of year is through the stories, the legends, the epic sagas that we spin in this sacred season, whether you're like me and you start thinking about Star Wars, A New Hope, whether it's the biblical nativity story, which has so many different inspirational and lovely layers, whether it is the pagan rituals that have to do with the winter solstice. All of these things are, in this time of year where we spend so much time in the darkness and we're putting up lights to remind ourselves. All of these stories are reminders of the hope that we carry in our heart, the faith we have to see beyond our outer circumstances and the strength to hold steady no matter what. So ask yourself, are you feeling hopeful? And if not, put on a movie, right? Listen to some music, read a wonderful story, and remind yourself that all is good, all will be well, and remind yourself to be grateful. So, with that, we are going to move into our time of meditation. And I am going to use a section here from Divine Audacity. This is Linda Martella Whitsett's meditation, part of her meditation on the power of faith. So I encourage you to first and foremost take a couple of deep breaths. Just realize the connection that you have with all that is, with divine mind, and how that connection comes into your body with each breath. And just relax into your seat. If you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed and listen to these words about faith. Faith is my ability to see what cannot be seen humanly. I activate this spiritual power, courageously perceiving a greater truth than my physical senses report. I dare myself to see what cannot be seen by human eyes, but exists as surely as the sun exists behind a cloud. I perceive the bottom line truths about life, that life is irrepressible, eternal, and perfect in every stage and form. I stretch my capacity to see the good that can be in troubling situations. I envision possibilities even in seemingly impossible circumstances. I am devoted to perceiving the good that can be. I am convinced that the nature of unseen good, the animating and harmonizing creative power behind all that I have and experience, is my nature. I am divine. I reach inward to my storehouse of faith to remain faithful during times when my human brain cannot envision the magnificent possibilities of wholeness of life, harmonious love, and wealth beyond measure. I demonstrate conviction by living as love lives, as wholeness lives, as wisdom lives. I audaciously trust in universal goodness, so much that I rest deeply in the peace of spiritual assurance. And with that, my friends, we move into a time of stillness together right now. And as we begin to bring our attention back to this moment, to the space that we're in, to our body in the seat, I will finish reading this meditation from Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. By my innate power of faith, I live in positive expectancy. I center my attention in joyous anticipation, knowing all is well, truly. So let's just come back to the current moment. Again, notice your breath moving in and out. And let's close with an affirmation. I'm going to put my hand in my heart space because that's what I like to do when I say an affirmation, to anchor the words in my body and in my heart. So here's the affirmation I have for you today, friends. I am hopeful. I am faithful. And I am grateful. Say it with me if you wish. I am hopeful. I am faithful. And I am grateful. Let's do it one more time. I am hopeful. I am faithful. And I am grateful. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I am going to hand it back to my friend Johnetta.
There I go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching.